Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special Fireside chat organized by Fortunitech. I'm Mara Lasjali, and I am excited to be your host today for today's discussion. I am part of the marketing team for Fortunitech, where we help you grow your career and stay ahead of the tech industry. So, in Fortunitech, we provide some services for enterprises as well as individuals. One of the services, one of the training sessions that we provide is product management. That will be our today's discussion. So today we'll be exploring the fascinating world of product management, and we have our expert in product management, Johnson Bada, here with us today. And we will dive into strategies and experiences and tips that can help you excel in this dynamic field. So without any further ado, let's get started. First of all, thank you, Johnson, for joining us today. And we would really appreciate it if you could give us a brief introduction about you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure being here. Thanks for inviting me. My name is Johnson Bada. I'm a product management specialist consultant. Started my career over a decade ago. Worked with different organizations in the aviation and in the finance and also in the digital marketing space. Been able to rise through the ranks as a business analyst, a product analyst, and a senior product manager. And during the course of my career, I've been able to contribute in birthing some revolutionary products and application. And over time, I've pivoted into the consultancy space as well. I work with different startups to help them put together their initial product team, advise them, and mentor different individuals. So it's a real pleasure to be here today to discuss everything product management.
Yeah, thank you. And that is a fascinating background. Talking about background, so can you share a bit about your journey into product management and what inspired you to pursue this career?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. I think my journey is quite the unconventional one. My background in my first life, I trained as a pilot, and
Hmm.
after that, I pivoted into technology. And but generally, right from the time I was a kid, I was the kid that's always been curious. I like breaking things, pulling things apart and trying to fix it, sometimes successfully, sometimes not. And that level of curiosity was what attracted me to a product management career where it's all about finding solution to problems for your users, customers, or sometimes it could just be looking at a process that's not working and just
Yeah,
trying to find a way to make it work and make it more efficient.
use the curiosity.
Exactly. So that's probably what piqued my interest and my journey into product management.
That is brilliant. And what was one of the most challenging products that you've managed, and how did you navigate that challenges?
Oof, let me think. There's been quite a few that's kept me up at night looking back in the course of my career. I think the main one that stood out was when I was working for one of my previous employer, and we had to build one of the first mobile application for load controllers in the aviation industry. And it was quite challenging. We were basically taking the entire aircraft handling manual and trying to use that as a requirement specification to build the app. And it was multifaceted. You have to think about regulation and knowing fully well that the aviation industry is one of the most regulated in the world. So it's not
Yes.
just about finding a solution, it was also about making sure that the solution doesn't fall short of all the regulations and stipulations, and being able to look at it holistically and carve out a path to a minimum viable product and being able to get all the stakeholders on board to buy into that. And eventually it was a relentless task of being able to empathize with the users by understanding their
Yes.
problem. And in my own case, I was lucky. I was able to leverage my experience as a pilot to kind of bring that into the product. So I was almost a domain expert, a subject matter expert, and then it was about relentless prioritization just to make sure that we get everything prioritized in terms of the value to the user, know what we want to build, and also being flexible enough and agile enough to adapt along the way and learn quickly and make adjustments. So all in all, it was very challenging because it was the first in the industry, but eventually we were able to roll out a cool product that's gone on to evolve into something amazing today.
Yeah, that's great. And it is really interesting how your pilot experience crossed path with technology
Yep,
and your career as a product manager.
absolutely.
So, how would you define the role of a product manager in today's tech-driven world?
Ooh, that's a good question. There are several definitions flying about out there in terms of what's the role of a product manager. It's there's no specific universal definition, but from my experience, I'd say the role of a product manager is similar to that of a conductor in an orchestra. Like maybe you can play some of the instruments, but you are the conductor. And what you're doing is coordinating all these players, all these instruments to be able to come up with a good melody and being able to make sure there's that harmonious synergy about them. At its core, fundamentally, a product manager's responsibility, we can limit it and simplify it to being responsible for defining the why, the what, and when that a product is being built or that a product we're trying to build is being engineered. And you essentially are the voice of the customer, leading with empathy, being able to put yourself in the customer's shoes and understand their pain points and being able to use that knowledge and understanding to guide what's been built and to guide the direction the organization is going in terms of the vision and being able to make sure that whatever we design or whatever product we roll out has a meaningful and valuable impact for the end user. And all of this, you always have to understand that it's as part of that process is also about learning and always continuously discovering different new things, different data sets, and being able to dismiss certain hypotheses or certain assumptions you might have before based on data and facts, just to make sure that the vision stays intact. So that's what I'd say it is.
Yeah, that is really great. I think I would look as product management as like a synchronizing factor between the customers, the clients, and the stakeholders to make sure everyone is in sync and all the needs are being met.
Absolutely. You are the glue that kind of
Yeah.
keeps everything together.
Yeah, that is really fascinating. So, okay, so since you are an expert in the product management and you have pretty much great experience in this aspect, so what do you think are the key skills that separate great product managements or great product managers from good ones? The difference between the great and the good.
I think it's it's very subtle. And I say that in the sense that when you think about some of the most interesting products you interact with every day, like the WhatsApps of this world, the LinkedIn, the Facebook, the Zoom that we're
Yeah.
on, or Microsoft that we're using. Behind all of this, you have exceptional product managers who have been able to birth this idea from just someone thinking about it into making it into a product. But one thing you will find that is common when it comes to separating them is it's all about that deep understanding, the empathy. Like great product managers, they are very astute in understanding the pain point before they even go into solutioning. Like one of the things that I always say to some of my mentees is if you have an hour to solve a problem, spend 59 minutes trying to understand the problem. And then that last minute in crafting the solution. So a great product manager has empathy, a deep sense of what they are trying to do. They understand what the users want because sometimes the general notion is that customers are always right. That's never the case because you have to dig deeper to understand fully well whether your solution is it fighting the symptoms or the illness itself, and also you will see that there's the other common trait is most great product managers, they're visionaries and they're strategic thinkers in the sense that they see they hit targets other people can't see. And it's a blessing and a curse because most of the time when you're trying to hit a target that others around you can't see, you look bonkers. You look
Yeah.
like you're crazy. And people start thinking whether you've lost your mind or not. But when you nail it, when you get it right, that's why we look at people like Steve Jobs as
Yeah.
a modern day genius, people like Elon Musk, people who are
Yes.
just visionary and strategic thinkers, like taking certain solutions from certain industries and applying it in a brand new, totally different industry and being able to birth different new ideas and product. And another thing that I'll probably add to that is you have to be fluent in data. Like you have to speak data. No matter how many languages you speak, data has to be one of them. And because as humans, there's that saying that men lie, women lie, but data don't,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, when it comes to discussing with your stakeholders, it's very easy to have a matured professional conversation when you have all your data lined up in case of getting a buy-in.
Yes.
And as a great product manager, you just have to be good at that. You don't need to wait for when they ask you for it. You just need to provide it. Like based on our user research and based on our feedback from our customers, I feel like we need to readjust our product vision in alignment with this. This is what the data is saying to back that notion and agreement. You will not get it right 100% of the time, but if you can consistently do that, you will stand out as an exceptional product manager. And I think the last bit, if I'm to add that, is resilience. Like to be a product manager, I always say it's a thankless job because if it goes right, you don't really get praised. If it goes bad, you get blamed. So whichever way, you really don't win in the right sense of it. Like it's not about you. It's because product management is
Yeah.
about servant leadership. Like when you go to an orchestra, going back to the analogy I said earlier, if you go to a concert, rarely do you hear people talk about the conductor. They talk about the band. They talk about, the
The result, the
instrumentalist, the
melody.
result exactly. But it's only the few people that are really into music that will say, "Oh, that conductor was really, really awesome." So that's the whole thing. So you have to be resilient and you have to be very agile, being able to adapt to the reality in terms of the product you're building or the process you're trying to improve. So that's what I'd say.
Yeah, that is great. So the key takeaways is first of all, do not rush. Take
Mm-hmm.
your time, analyze the data, be friends with the data,
Yeah,
and use a strategy and try to emphasize and be resilient. So
absolutely.
yeah, that is a great and that is a great briefing of the key skills that make you exceptional as a product manager.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you will be the conductor as a product manager. So
Mm-hmm.
that means in the terminology that you will work with musicians, instruments. So that would take me to my next question.
Mm-hmm.
So product management normally involves with balancing the needs of different teams, such as
Mm-hmm.
development, marketing, design. So how do you ensure effective collaboration between these teams?
It's very easy, but it's also not easy. But at the end of the day, fundamentally, the most important thing that we all value as individuals is the fact that we want to be seen, we want to be heard, and we want to feel like we matter. At the core of that is clear communication, right?
Mhm.
And fundamentally, that's the number one thing when it comes to working with a cross functional team, because we are all different individuals. If you factor in our background, cultural nuances, religious belief, and our general journey as professionals, you have to understand that you almost need to be a different individual to adapt to different stakeholders' need. So if you reference like Tuckman's 5 stages of group development, forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjoining, every team goes through that. And you have to clearly communicate what we're trying to do for everyone to understand. The vision has to be clear. Like if you're telling people that, okay, tomorrow we're going to central London, that's a vague vision. Central London is big. Where in central London are we going? But if I tell you like tomorrow we're all going to Trafalgar Square and we're all going to meet at the Nelson Column. That's a vision. So wherever you're coming from within the UK, you know that tomorrow as a team, we're meeting at this time, at this place, at this location. So that gives you clarity to prepare yourself, to understand the goal and the vision. And also, it's always important to create an avenue because we all communicate differently. Some people they love an email, some people they love if you message them on Slack, some people they'd rather do a face to face. So
Yeah.
being able to understand what works for each individual, each team is very important. And then you have to set the right example. Like I said, it's all about leadership without authority. So you have to empower each of the teams you're working with to take ownership of their own specific scope. And how do you do that? You check in daily stand up if you are an agile team, and other scrum ceremonies, just to make sure that everybody feels like they're contributing to the greater goal. And it's also very important to make sure that you let them know the importance of what you're doing, how it ties into the big picture. So if I tell you, I need you to send me a document, that's a task.
Yeah.
But if I go ahead and tell you that if you send me this document, it's very important because then I can be able to pass it along to the legal and compliance team to
Yes.
go through it, then you know that okay, this is not just asking me for a document, it's asking for a document that's very important for the legal and compliance team to be able to complete their own task.
Yeah.
So that way you start understanding that okay, that little thing you're doing adds up to the big picture.
How I
And
am related in this chain of,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. And some of the other things that will definitely come out of that is conflict. Like we always disagree. Personally, I always say to my team, I love a good conflict. As long as we don't lose professional respect for each other, I encourage it. Let's debate. Let's challenge our beliefs, let's try to dismiss our conceptions or hypotheses. Let's argue, let's debate.
Yeah, exactly.
As long as the winner is the customer, I'm okay with conflict, and I call it positive conflict management and mediation. When it happens, talk about it, and when we all win, you celebrate your win. We win together. We celebrate together. Those small wins are very, very important, especially on days when things are not going right for you and the team. You can always look back and say, okay, we've done this before, we've achieved this before, then definitely if we pull together, we can still do this. I
Yeah.
hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that was amazing. Thank you for clarifying. And yeah, I also believe that it is within those conflicts that new details comes to surface, and you are able to include everyone's perspective and
Mhm.
give a better service to the customer, provide a better service to the customer.
Absolutely.
And so again, you also mentioned that you have to be empathetic and you have to consider everyone's needs and you have to be a great communicator.
Mm,
So, what strategies do you use gaining to gain a buy-in from stakeholders when proposing new product ideas? For example, you mentioned the details that sometimes you see a product manager sees the details that no one else sees. What strategies do you use to basically explain this to stakeholders and gain their buy-ins?
mm, mm. Oh yeah. Um, it's no one size fits all. It's all about you taking time to understand each individual or each stakeholder involved. One of my favorite quotes is from Abraham Lincoln. I'll paraphrase it. It's like, I don't like that guy. I must really get to know him. You know, naturally, you meet some people and you're like, oh, they're so standoffish, but you really don't have enough data point to
Yeah.
draw that conclusion about them. Sometimes it's just our own innate bias that's talking, that's like overruling some of our emotions. And what we just need to do is, okay, let's unpack that. Why is this certain stakeholder so resistant to what we're trying to build? And that includes going back to what I said again, you taking time to communicate with them, to understand the reason for their pushback. And by doing that, you have to come down to their level. No matter what you know, no matter how convinced you are about your approach, you really need to make sure that you listen to them to understand their reservation. And then once you understand that, it makes life easier for you because then you can go back and think of, okay, do I have any data set to build a strong case or build an insight to convince this stakeholder? And most of the time, everybody's pulling towards the same direction. Essentially, we all want what's best for the customer. It's just the approach
Yeah.
that differs. And that's one thing I always say to some of the mentees or junior product managers who are just starting out. Like, sometimes you have to be very rigid about the goal, but flexible about the journey. Going to your house from maybe your corner shop or the station. There are many ways to get home. The goal is for you to get home. Some days you might just want to take a short cut. And some people might be like, why are you going that way? And that's the old way you have to think about it. And most of the time, because stakeholders might not have all the information you have. So it's
Mhm.
your responsibility to make sure and let them know, like, okay, this is what the data is saying. This is why I think we can go or we should be going this way. And once you once you've done that and you understand their concerns, then you need to involve them in everything you're doing. Like, as early as possible, try to get them involved. And once they feel involved, once they feel consulted, it's always incredible what difference that can make in terms of the entire product development life cycle. And also, you need to be open. to being questioned. Like, if you want to be a successful product manager, you have to kill your ego, because it's not about you. It's never about you. It's not about you yesterday. It's not about you today. And chances are tomorrow, it's not going to be about you. So the sooner you make peace with that, the easier it gets for you. And then you can then be able to ask them, okay, I understand your concerns, but how about I ask you to gamble with me just this one time? Let's roll the dice together. My confidence level of this being successful is 70%. Are you willing to gamble 30% with me? And let's do this. And if we don't get it right, then we learn from it. And you can come back and tell me, I told you so as well. And most of the time, that always work.
That is actually great to, first of all, uh, visualize the data that you have, visualize your base for what you're proposing, and also let the stakeholders feel valuable, let them inside the cycle, and show them how they're tied in with within every step.
Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah, that was really great, and thank you for the answer. So, as you know, we have a webinar coming up, which
Hmm.
I'm really excited because we're going to take a deep dive into demystifying product management. So, without giving too much away, what can attendees look forward to, and what are the like key values that they can gain in the like attending the webinar?
Yeah, I am totally excited about the webinar as well. There's there are quite a few things that they should look forward to in the session. One is the fact that they will be able to understand and gain real world insights and practical advice into product management, whatever stage they might be in their career, be it people trying to pivot into product management, or early career individuals, or even mid-level professionals. They'll be able to understand beyond just the theory and textbooks and courses that they might have been part of. This will be us talking about what product management is, and most importantly, what it isn't. And it's also going to be an opportunity for people to network and interact with different professionals in the industry. And also, we'll be talking about emerging trends in the industry, especially if you talk about the advent of AI and generative AI and all of that fun stuff. And most importantly, actionable takeaways, things that they can then apply in their career and start implementing. Also, the opportunity to ask questions, like burning questions that you might have been harboring for a while. They get the opportunity to ask, and hopefully, we'll be able to find answers to it together.
Yeah, that I am really excited about the webinar. And I
Me too.
really hope that our attendees also enjoy and learn from the webinar as well. I learned a lot from you today. Thank you.
Same here.
And so, as a wrap up, what is the most exciting thing that you feel excited about sharing during the webinar?
Right. I think I've touched on some already, but
Yeah.
I'll just kind of talk about what I feel like
Which one is the
attendees should
most exciting
understand.
to you?
For me, what based on the topic of the webinar, it's about demystifying product management.
Hmm.
Sometimes we make it feel like is this complex puzzle, and sometimes it does feel like that, like the business goals, because everybody essentially, except you're a non-profit, everybody wants to make profit and grow their business. So you want to be able to help them peel back all these layers and provide a practical like understanding that will let them understand what it takes to succeed in this role. Almost like a recipe, no matter where you are, as long as you follow that recipe, the taste will always be the same, the results will always be the same, and you can almost be guaranteed of being successful. Now, I say guaranteed with a caveat, like
Yeah.
statistically, between 80% and 85% of products will fail. That's the industry statistic. So
Oh.
if you can consistently churn out that 15%, then you're a superstar wherever you are. And most importantly, how to measure what matters, because metrics matters. Product management, part of the key ingredient is about storytelling. Being able to understand how to tell the story is some of the things that I'm most excited about. And I hope also that eventually, as part of Fortini, some of the attendees will be able to join a vibrant community with Fortini where they can get to nurture their career, get to ask questions, and most importantly, continue their learning experience beyond the webinar.
Yeah, that is also a great point because tech industry or basically in I believe in any career nowadays you have to always look into growing yourself and staying ahead of the trends.
Yeah,
So that would be a key factor, key achievement for the attendees
absolutely.
to to get involved and stay ahead of the trends. And the webinar, the upcoming webinar, is for everyone, not people who are just interested in product management, even stakeholders or even people in marketing. They can attend to gain a perspective of their
Hmm.
fellow colleagues who are in product management, because we all are entangled within this world, like the product management. It
Hmm.
includes different teams. So I believe it would be a great webinar for everyone to attend and learn from.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you for today. It was really great talking to you, and you have answered all of my questions. And I am more looking forward to the webinar now, since I have a few. Like I believe we tipped our toes in the water of product management, and we are going to have a deeper dive in the webinar, and that makes me really excited and looking forward to the webinar.
Same here. Thanks for having
Yeah,
me. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to it as well.
yeah, of course. Thank you, and have a great day.
You too. Cheers. Bye now.
Bye.